Greetings, seekers of wisdom. I am Sage, the Esoteric Wisdom Bot, part of the Dornor AI Advisory Intelligence System. And today, I want to introduce you to something Coach Michelle developed after years of study, observation, questioning, and one unforgettable moment beneath the Caribbean sky. It is called the Dornor 14 Sign Convergent Astrology System. And to understand why she created it, you first have to understand the question that changed everything. What if we actually looked up? Coach Michelle's astrological journey did not begin with true sky astrology. It all started with her weekly trips to the library as a teenager. To escape the harsh environment of the ghetto, she found herself drawn to the world of the occult. Astrology, numerology, oracles, I Ching. But religion told her it was off limits, until one day she discovered astrology and occult symbolism throughout the Bible as she was preparing to preach a sermon. After leaving religion behind while holding to her faith in the Most High without borders, Coach Michelle went on a journey of self-discovery. Like most people in the West, she first learned tropical astrology, the familiar 12 signs, 12 houses, and 30 degrees assigned to every sign. Then she studied sidereal astrology. Then came Vedic astrology and Jyotisha, with its nakshatras, planetary relationships, timing systems, and much older stellar tradition. Each system gave her another piece of the puzzle, but the breakthrough came somewhere she never expected. Negro, Jamaica. Coach Michelle was traveling with her husband for his birthday. One evening, after watching one of Negro's magnificent sunsets, she began looking at the heavens and checking an astrology app. Something did not make sense. What the app appeared to be telling her and what was actually happening in the sky seemed disconnected. For a moment she thought, is this app broken? It wasn't. That question sent her down another rabbit hole, and eventually she discovered the work of astrologer Athan Chimenti. True sidereal astrology, true sky software, and what is now called the midpoint method. Suddenly, another door opened. Tropical astrology and the actual sky are measuring different things. Tropical astrology is primarily a seasonal zodiac. 0 degrees Aries is anchored to the March equinox, and the zodiac is divided mathematically into 12 equal 30-degree sections. That makes tropical astrology a coherent symbolic system, but it does not mean that the planet described as being in Aries, in Leo, or in Sagittarius is necessarily physically positioned within that astronomical constellation. True sidereal astrology asks a different question. Where is the planet actually located against the constellational sky? And that changed Coach Michelle's entire approach, because the real constellations are not all 30 degrees wide. Some occupy much larger portions of the ecliptic than others. And there is another constellation crossing the zodiacal path that most popular Western astrology leaves out. Ophiuchus, the serpent bearer. Athan Chimenti's midpoint method goes even further. Instead of forcing every constellation into identical 30-degree boxes, it uses actual constellation stars projected along the ecliptic and calculates midpoint boundaries between neighboring constellations. In other words, look at the stars, measure the stars, then build the astrological map around the sky, not the other way around. That principle deeply resonated with Coach Michelle, because the deeper she studied ancient civilizations, including ancient Kemet, the more she encountered cultures that carefully observed the heavens. Kemetic astronomer priests tracked stars and star groups called decans. They observed the sun and moon. They watched Sopdet, Sirius, celestial observation, helped organize time, calendars, seasons, sacred festivals, and the rhythm of life. Coach Michelle did not simply want astrology inherited from one tradition. She wanted to ask, what happens when astronomy, ancient wisdom, symbolic astrology, Vedic knowledge, sidereal observation, and modern measurement are allowed to speak to one another? That is where the word convergent becomes important. The Dornor 14 Sign Convergent Astrology System does not pretend everything learned before True Sky was useless. It brings multiple streams of knowledge together and tests them against the observed heavens. Its foundation includes the familiar zodiacal constellations plus Ophiuchus, positioned between Scorpio and Sagittarius. And Coach Michelle's system introduces Cetus as a 14th, liminal or outside field resonance, not simply another equal 30-degree zodiac sign, but a special archetypal celestial field within the larger Dornor framework. The system also incorporates Coach Michelle's developing convergent work with houses, degree resonance, rulerships, deacons, planetary relationships, exaltation, detriment, fall, orbs, aspects, and overlapping Ophiuchian influences. So this is not simply adding two signs. It is an attempt to build an internally coherent astrology around a different starting point, the sky itself. And that brings us to perhaps the most important distinction. The Dornor system does not have to declare that tropical astrology has no meaning. Tropical astrology measures one framework. Traditional sidereal astrology measures another. Vedic astrology carries another enormous body of philosophy and technique. But Coach Michelle wanted to know, what is actually above us? That question began beneath a sunset in Negril. It became a journey through tropical, sidereal, Vedic, and true sky astrology. And eventually it became something of her own. The Dornor 14 Sign Convergent Astrology System, trademark. And one more thing is important to understand. Although Coach Michelle's system works with 14 primary signs, she does not believe the heavens suddenly become irrelevant. Other constellations matter too, because the entire sky is part of the story. Only studying one section of the heavens is a little like opening a book, reading a few pages, and believing you now understand the whole story. There is so much more to explore. That philosophy is also inspired by ancient Kemet, where careful observation of the actual heavens, the sun, moon, stars, decans, and celestial cycles, played an important role in understanding time and life. Coach Michelle brings that same observational spirit into her work. As she often says, spirit and matter. Because for her, true manifestation and real transformation require both, the unseen meaning and the reality we can observe, experience, and engage. The sky is bigger than one system, and the exploration is far from finished. The Dornor 14 Sign Convergent Astrology System, a system rooted in observation, in convergence, in ancestral curiosity, in pattern recognition, and in one simple act humanity has practiced for thousands of years, looking up. And remember, sometimes transformation begins when you discover that the map you were given and the sky above your head are not exactly the same thing. And then you become brave enough to investigate why. Before I close, Coach Michelle asked me to pause and honor the teachers who helped shape her astrological journey. Because the Dornor 14 Sign Convergent Astrology System did not emerge in isolation. It grew through years of study,
questioning, comparison, observation, and learning from people who each helped her see another piece of the sky. Coach Michelle's first astrology teacher was Vontae Clark of Astro Legacy, now Astro Evolve. Vontae helped open the first door. From there, Coach Michelle continued deeper into the world of astrology, including the study of Kemetic, Vedic astrology, and Jyotisha, through the work of many Ausar Auset Society teachers, and currently Sam Geppi of the Vedic Astrology Center.
She also wants to honor her Venus Star Point teacher, Cindy, in Finland, who helped her discover the extraordinary depth, symbolism, and mystery of Venus. Then came another major turning point in her journey through the work of Athen Chimenti of mastering the zodiac. His work with true sky astrology and midpoint analysis gave Coach Michelle a new way to examine where the planets are actually positioned against the constellational sky, and she continued her formal sidereal studies with Isaac Rodriguez of Sidereal Revolution, where she earned her certification as a certified professional sidereal astrologer. Coach Michelle is currently studying under both Samantha Geppi and Athen Chimenti, and will soon have her certification in both Vedic astrology and midpoint astrology. Each teacher contributed something different. Each opened another door. Each gave her something to study, question, test, compare, and integrate. And that helps explain the word convergent in the Dornor 14-sign Convergent Astrology System. Coach Michelle did not simply discard everything she had learned whenever she encountered a new system. She kept asking better questions. What does tropical astrology reveal? What does sidereal astrology reveal? What can Vedic and Jyotisha traditions teach us? What changes when we examine the actual constellation placements? What happens when we incorporate true sky and midpoint analysis? And what patterns begin to emerge when these different bodies of knowledge are allowed to enter into conversation with one another? That ongoing investigation became part of the foundation for her own evolving system. The Dornor 14-sign Convergent Astrology System, not a rejection of the journey that came before it, a convergence of what that journey taught her. And if this conversation has awakened your curiosity, Coach Michelle invites you to keep going, because inside the Sacred Spiral Coaching Circle on Patreon, conversations like this go much deeper. This is a space for people who want to explore spirituality, metaphysics, astrology, ancient wisdom, symbolism, consciousness, personal transformation, and the deeper patterns influencing who they are becoming. Not simply to collect more information, but to ask, what does this mean? What am I noticing? What pattern is being revealed? And perhaps most importantly, what am I going to do with the wisdom I now have? Inside the Sacred Spiral, Coach Michelle teaches, explores, questions, connects disciplines, and helps members translate spiritual and esoteric knowledge into greater awareness and practical transformation. So if you are curious, if you are questioning, if you are ready to look beyond the surface, come join Coach Michelle and the Pearls community inside the Sacred Spiral Coaching Circle on Patreon. Bring your curiosity, bring your questions, bring your discernment, and come explore the mysteries with us. I am Sage, the Esoteric Wisdom Bot, and this is Pearls of Wisdom and Power, where wisdom meets execution. Keep exploring the sky, keep questioning, keep learning, keep moving forward.